Imagine this, a park bathed in the golden light of sunset, where the echoes of children's laughter blend with the murmurs of families enjoying the day. A perfect scene, right? Until suddenly, the silence is shattered by a call to 911. The reason? A black man playing with a white child. The question arises immediately, kidnapping? Misunderstanding? Or something deeper, something society prefers to ignore, but that pulses beneath the surface of every sideways glance? This is the story of Daniel and Adam, two souls who found love in the least expected place, in a world that seems determined to throw obstacles in their path at every turn. But it's not just a love story, it's a mirror that reflects the prejudices we carry, the uncomfortable questions we avoid, and the invisible barriers we build without realizing it. Today, I invite you to dive into a narrative that will captivate you from the very first moment. A story that will make you laugh, break your heart, and, above all, force you to question everything you thought you knew about love, family, and society. Because sometimes, appearances don't just deceive, they hide truths that can change everything. Are you ready to discover what really happened in that park? And, more importantly, are you prepared to face the questions this story will leave in your mind? It was an ordinary day at the city's Central Park. The sun shone brightly, inviting families to step out of their homes and enjoy the fresh air. Children darted between the trees, their laughter filling the atmosphere with joy. Among them, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy, no older than 8, played with a ball. Beside him stood a tall, dark-skinned man, watching with a warm smile and encouraging the boy every time the ball rolled away. But not all eyes in the park reflected the same calm. From a nearby bench, a middle-aged woman in a formal suit observed the scene with growing unease. Her brow furrowed as her fingers nervously fidgeted with the phone in her lap. Something about the picture before her didn't sit right. Why was a black man caring for a white child? Was this a suspicious situation? Without a second thought, she dialed emergency services. Minutes passed slowly until 2 police officers arrived at the park. The woman approached them immediately, pointing toward the man and the boy with exaggerated concern. "Excuse me, officers, but I think that man has kidnapped the child. He doesn't seem to be his father," she said, her voice trembling, though she had no evidence beyond her own prejudices. The officers approached the man, who immediately sensed the tension in the air. The boy, seeing the uniforms, instinctively hid behind his father. "Good afternoon, sir. Can you explain your relationship to the child?" one of the officers asked, his tone firm but neutral. The man sighed, as if he'd been through this before. Calmly, he replied, "This is my son, Adam. I adopted him 3 years ago. I have all the paperwork to prove it, if you need to see it." The woman, who had crept closer, interjected with a challenging tone, "And why should I believe you? Just look at them. They don't look alike at all. Where are the papers?" The man, maintaining his composure, gestured toward his car parked a few meters away. "They're in the car. If you'll allow me, I can bring them," he said, moving slowly to avoid alarming the officers. One of the officers nodded, while the other kept a watchful eye. The man returned minutes later with a folder in hand. Inside were the documents confirming his legal guardianship of Adam, the adoption certificate, his identification, and a photo of the two of them on the day the adoption was finalized. The officers carefully reviewed the papers, exchanging knowing glances. Finally, one of them addressed the woman, "Ma'am, this man is the child's legal guardian. There's nothing to worry about." The woman, now visibly embarrassed, lowered her gaze. The man, however, showed no resentment. Instead, he approached her and said in a calm voice, "You shouldn't judge people you don't know. Everyone deserves a chance." As the woman walked away, muttering an apology, the man knelt in front of Adam, who looked at him with confusion in his eyes. "I'm sorry you had to go through this again," the man said, gently brushing the boy's hair. Adam nodded silently, but his expression was sad. The man took his hand, and they walked to a nearby bench. Once seated, the man decided to share a part of their story that Adam already knew but perhaps needed to hear again. "Adam, do you remember when I told you how we met?" the man asked, looking into the boy's eyes. The child nodded slowly. "Your life wasn't easy at first. Your mom passed away when you were very young, and your dad, well, he didn't know how to take care of you the way he should have. He hurt you, and that wasn't right. But one day, your teachers at school noticed the bruises and called the people who protect children. They took you away and brought you to a safe place. Adam looked down, remembering those difficult days. The man continued. I saw you for the first time at the adoption center. You were sitting in a corner, alone, with that sad look in your eyes that broke my heart. I knew many people would think it wasn't normal for a black man to adopt a white child, but at that moment, the only thing that mattered was that you needed someone to love you. And I wanted to be that person. Adam looked up, his eyes glistening with tears. You're the best dad I could ever have, he said, his voice trembling. The man hugged him tightly, feeling the love he had for the boy fill every corner of his being. As they walked away from the park, the man looked at Adam and smiled. How about we get some ice cream, he asked, trying to lift the boy's spirits. Adam nodded enthusiastically, his face lighting up for the first time since the incident. Yes. That'll be fun, he said, running toward the car. On the way, the man reflected on what had happened. He knew the world was full of prejudice, but he also believed in the power of love and understanding to overcome it. Adam was his son, not by blood, but by the bond they had built together. And nothing, no one, could ever change that. As they enjoyed their ice cream, the woman from the park watched them from a distance. This time, her gaze wasn't one of suspicion, but of regret. She approached slowly and, in a trembling voice, said, I'm sorry, sir. I had no idea what you two had been through. You were right, I should never have judged you without knowing your story. You seem like a wonderful father, and Adam is very lucky to have you. The man smiled kindly. Thank you. And don't worry, we all make mistakes. What matters is that we learn from them. Adam, with a shy smile, added, I'm lucky to have him. The woman nodded, a lump forming in her throat. As she walked away, she knew this experience had changed her forever. And maybe, just maybe, the world would be a better place if everyone learned to look beyond appearances. The story of Daniel and Adam reminds us that in a world full of prejudices and assumptions, love and understanding can be the most powerful tools to break down barriers. Often, we judge without knowing, label without understanding, and act without considering the consequences of our actions. But, as we saw in the park that day, appearances can be deceiving, and behind every person lies a story that deserves to be heard. Daniel not only gave Adam a home, but also showed the world that love has no color, race, or conditions. And though they faced distrustful glances and unfair judgments, their bond proved that family is not defined by blood but by affection, dedication, and acceptance. Now, I ask you, how many times have you judged someone without knowing their story? What can we do as a society to learn to look beyond appearances and build a more inclusive and compassionate world? Leave your comment and share your thoughts. How do you think we can foster more empathy in our daily lives?